Lesson 9.3 is about circles. So in order to write the equation of a circle, you need two things. You need the center and the radius. So if you know those two things, the way you write the equation is x minus, and then you put the x coordinate from the center, and you square that set of parentheses. Then you make another one with y minus, and it's the y coordinate from the center, and you square that one, and it equals the radius squared. Okay, so looking at number 1, notice the plus 3 with the x. So we do the opposite, negative 3. The y doesn't have parentheses, so the y coordinate for the center is 0. So this is our center. The radius is the square root of the number on the other side by itself. Okay, and then to graph it, plot the center, which is at negative 3, 0. And because the radius is 4, I'm going to go up 4, down 4, 4 to the left, and 4 to the right. Then I'm going to draw a circle with the 4 outside points. Okay, for number 2, now we have a problem on number 2 because x and y, if you look at the equation, x and y are supposed to have 1 in front as a coefficient. This has a 3 in front, which is not supposed to be there, so let's divide everything by 3 first. So there's the equation of the circle in the right form. Now we know the center, there's no parentheses, so the center is 0, 0, and the radius is the square root of 11. Alright, so we graph the center, and from there we want to go rad 11, up, down, left, and right. So the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 16 is 4, so the square root of 11 is somewhere between 3 and 4. So I'm going to go up 3.5, and the same distance down to the left and to the right. Okay, for number 3, notice there's also a 2x and a 6y. So we're going to have to complete the square like we did with parabolas. So first thing you should do is put the x's together and leave a gap. Then put the y's next to each other and leave another gap. Alright, so we're going to complete the square for both of those. So for x, we see a plus 2. Divide that by 2 makes 1. And then 1 squared is 1. Okay, for the y's, we see a plus 6. Divide that by 2 makes 3. Then we square 3, and that becomes 9. Now, since we added 1 and 9 to the left side, we have to add 10 to the other side so that it stays balanced. Okay, factor the quadratic for the x's, you get x plus 1 squared. Factor the trinomial with the y's, you get y plus 3 squared equals 36. This makes the center negative 1, negative 3, and the radius is 6. Okay, this graph counts by 2s, so be careful there. Negative 1, negative 3 is around here. And we have to go 6 in every direction. So if I go up 6 from there, that would take me to positive 3. If I go down 6, that would take me to negative 9 on the y. If we go 6 to the left, that would take us to negative 7 on the x. And 6 to the right would take us to positive 5. So for number 4, they already completed the square for the x's, but they did not do it for the y's. Alright, so we see as the b value is plus 4, divide that by 2, makes 2, and square 2, you get 4. So we add a 4 here, and we have to add 4 to the other side to keep it balanced. Alright, factoring y squared plus 4y plus 4, we get y plus 2 squared equals 8. So our center, we do the opposite, 1, comma negative 2. Then our radius is going to be the square root of 8. The square root of 8 is also known as 2 radical 2. Okay, let's go to the center. 1, negative 2 is here. The square root of 8 is a little bit less than 3. So I'm going to go almost 3 each direction. Alright, so for 5, we have to complete the square for the x's. We don't have to complete the square for the y's because there's no, it's called a linear term. There's no term that just has y to the first power. Okay, so for the x's, we see a negative 6. Divide that by 2 makes negative 3. Then negative 3 squared is plus 9. Add it to the other side and factor. So we have x minus 3 squared plus y squared equals 9. So our center is 3, 0, and our radius is the square root of 9, which is 3. So our center is here at 3, 0, and we need to go up, down, left, and right 3 units. For number 6, put the x's together. Leave a gap. And put the y's together. And leave another gap. Alright, complete the square for the x's. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 squared is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. We added 1 and 9 to the left, so we have to add 10 total to the right. Factor the x's, we get x plus 1 squared. Factoring the y's, we get y plus 3 squared equals 9. Our center is negative 1, negative 3, and our radius is the square root of 9, which is 3. Alright, plotting our center at -1, -3, and then we want to go 3 up, down, left, and right. Okay, for number 7, we are told that an engineer uses a coordinate plane to show the layout of a side view of a storage building. The y-axis represents a wall, so let's draw that, and the x-axis represents the floor. And they tell us they want the first quadrant. So we're going to put a cylinder in quadrant 1, touching the wall and touching the floor. The side of the bottom of a cylinder looks like a circle. Alright, they say it's tangent to both axes, so yeah, it has to barely touch the x and barely touch the y. Alright, we also know that this cylinder has a diameter of 10 meters. So if the diameter is 10, that means the radius is 5. So that gives us the center. The center, we know, has to be 5 units this way and 5 units up. So the center is at 5, 5, and the radius equals 5. So now we just need the equation of the circle. That's going to be x minus 5 squared plus y minus 5 squared. And then don't forget to square the radius. This is going to equal 5 squared, which is 25. Okay, these next 6 problems are going to be pretty easy because we don't have to graph them. We're just writing the equation. So you don't need parentheses when the coordinate is 0. So because the x is 0, you could just write x squared. You don't have to write x minus 0. Okay, the y coordinate is 5, so we do y minus 5 squared. Then we take the radius and we square it, and 1 squared is 1. So always take the opposite, x minus 5 squared plus y minus 12 squared equals 8 squared, which is 64. For number 10, we do x minus 4 squared plus, and we don't need parentheses because the y coordinate is 0, so we just write y squared equals, then we square the 2, which is 4. So when the center is 2, 2, we do x minus 2 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals, and we square the 3 to make 9. Okay, for 12, do the opposite of positive 4, which is negative 4. Then do the opposite of negative 4, that's plus 4. Square that, and 4 squared is 16. One more of these. We do the opposite of negative 6, so that's x plus 6 squared plus opposite of 4, y minus 4 squared equals, and 5 squared is 25. Alright, for the next two, they give you the graph, and then you write the equation. Remember, you need the center and the radius in order to write the equation of a circle. So let's figure out the center. So I think the center is here. And we could check that by going up, down, left, and right and making sure it's the same distance. So if I go up, that's 5 to the top, and if I go down, that's also 5. If I go to the left, that was 5 units, and if I go to the right, that's also 5 units. So if I had picked the wrong point as the center, I wouldn't have gotten the same distance for the radius all 4 ways. So because it was 5 in all 4 directions, we know we got the middle. Alright, so what are the coordinates there? It looks like the coordinates are 3, -2. So the center. 3, -2. And then we already determined that the radius is 5. Okay, so we do the opposite. X minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 25. Okay, for 15, let's try to find the middle. I think the middle would be the coordinate right here. And now let's check. So going up, that was a distance of 4. Going down, that was 4. Going to the left, we get 4, and going to the right, it's also 4. So the radius is 4, and because we got the same length going all 4 ways, we know we found the center correctly. So now we just need the coordinates there. Looks like the coordinates at that spot are -2, -3. So the equation of the circle is going to be x plus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals, and then 4 squared is 16. Okay, so again, remember, to write the equation of a circle, you need the center and the radius. So they don't give us the center, they give us the endpoints of one of the diameters. So we're going to use the midpoint formula to find the center. So if you add these together, 6 plus 10 divided by 2, now add the y's together, 6 plus 12 divided by 2. This will give you the center. 6 plus 10 is 16. Divide that by 2, you get 8. 6 plus 12 is 18. Divide that by 2, you get 9. There are a few ways you can find the radius. You could do the distance formula on these 2 points, but if you do that, that'll give you the diameter. So to find the radius directly, do the distance formula using the center and one of these points. So let's just stick with the one with smaller numbers. So I'm going to use 6, 6 and 8, 9 to find the radius. So the radius is going to equal radical, and then I have to subtract the x's, so I'm going to do 8 minus 6 squared plus 9 minus 6 squared. Okay, 8 minus 6 is 2. Square that and you get 4. 9 minus 6 is 3. Square that and you get 9. So our radius is a radical 13. Oops. And now we can write the equation of the circle. So it's x minus 8 squared plus y minus 9 squared and we square radical 13. Radical 13 squared is 13. Okay, find the midpoint. That'll be the center. So we add the x's together and divide by 2. Add the y's together and divide by 2. So the x-coordinate is going to be 4 divided by 2, which is 2. The y-coordinate is going to be 2 divided by 2, which is 1. Now I'm going to do the distance formula using, and I'll use this point and the center. So the radius is going to equal, I have to subtract the x's, 8 minus 2 squared, plus subtract the y's, 4 minus 1 squared. And it doesn't matter if you do 8 minus 2 or 2 minus 8. Also doesn't matter if you do 4 minus 1 or 1 minus 4, because you're going to square it anyway. Okay, 8 minus 2 is 6. Square that, you get 36. 4 minus 1 is 3. Square that, we get 9. This is going to equal radical 45. Now I know that breaks down into 3 rad 5, but we don't need to break that down because we're going to square it anyways. Okay, so the last equation is x minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared. Then we're going to take the rad 45 and square that. Okay, that's all for 9.3.